Two people retire the same day with the same amount, $1 million each. Both follow the 4% rule exactly. Withdraw $40,000 a year, adjust for inflation, never touch the principal. One of them runs out of money by 78. The other dies at 95 with more than they started with. Same rule. Same math. And the only thing that separated them was something neither of them could control. Here's what nobody tells you about the 4% rule. It was never a promise. It was a study. And that study had one flaw baked into it that most advisors don't explain. It's 1994. A planner named William Bengen tests historical market data going back to 1926. His question, how much can you withdraw every year without running out of money over 30 years? He runs it against the worst stretches in American history: the Depression, World War II, the 1970s stagflation. And 4%, adjusted for inflation, survives almost all of them. That part's real. Here's the myth. The industry took this survive the worst-case scenario and sold it as this is safe for everyone, forever. Here's the first problem. The rule doesn't care when you retire. But your retirement date is the single biggest variable in the whole equation. Picture two people. Same million, same withdrawal. The only difference the order the returns show up in. Person 1 retires right before a crash. Year 1, down 20%. Year 2, down 10%. They're pulling $40,000 out of a shrinking pile, selling stock at a discount that can never recover. By the time the market bounces back, there's less money left to actually benefit from it. Person 2 retires right before a bull run, up 15%, then 12%. Their withdrawals come out of a portfolio growing faster than their spending. By year 5, they have more than they started with. Same rule, same discipline. Completely different outcomes decided by a calendar date neither of them chose. Researchers call this sequence risk. According to Morningstar, retirees who hit poor returns in their first 5 years fail at dramatically higher rates than retirees with the same average return spread differently. The average is identical. The order is what kills you. Here's something else the rule assumes: exactly 30 years, no more. But that was just a reasonable number in 1994. Retire at 55 with financial independence, that's potentially 40 years. Bengen himself later suggested the number could be higher or lower depending on conditions. Some researchers now put the safe rate closer to 3.3% for retirements starting today, because interest rates and starting valuations aren't what they were in 1994. And here's the part that really breaks assumptions. Inflation isn't a side detail, it's half the equation. The rule says increase your withdrawal every year for inflation, no matter what the market did. So in a year your portfolio drops 15%, you're not withdrawing the same amount, you're withdrawing more, because the rule demands it. You're taking a bigger bite out of a smaller pie, whether the pie can afford it or not. Here's the twist. The 4% rule was never meant to be followed exactly. It was built as a worst-case floor, not a target. In most historical periods, people following it died with far more than they started with. It's so conservative, it accidentally survives the worst 5% of scenarios by over-preparing for everyone else. Which means most people using it are underspending an entire retirement, sitting on money they could actually be using, because they're planning for the Great Depression instead of their own life. So what actually decides your outcome? Not the number in isolation. The order of returns in your first 5 to 10 years, whether you're flexible when the market turns, and whether you're running a static rule built for history's worst case, or adjusting to your actual portfolio. Here's what actually protects you. Don't treat 4% as fixed, treat it as a starting point. Build flexibility into your first 5 years specifically, since that's where sequence risk does the most damage. A 1 to 2 year cash buffer keeps you from selling stocks during a crash. Revisit your rate yearly based on real performance, not autopilot. And understand the safe number depends on when you retire relative to market cycles, something you can't control. Which is exactly why flexibility matters more than the percentage itself. The 4% rule isn't lying because the research was bad. It's lying because an entire industry took a worst-case stress test and sold it as a guarantee. Because withdraw 4% and you're fine sells better than it depends, and you should stay flexible. The real number was never 4%. It depends when you started, how the market treats your first decade, and whether you adjust when the plan meets reality. If this changed how you think about your number, drop a comment with what rate you've been planning around. And if you want more of the math nobody explains clearly, subscribe. The rule everyone quotes was built to survive the worst year in history. Your retirement deserves better than someone else's worst case.